Hi, welcome back to my nursery. I've been getting quite a few comments recently on how to propagate carnivorous plants, and I thought today I would do one long video going over these 6 genera for you on how I go about asexually reproducing them. So without further ado, I want to go over some of the supplies you'll need. So a basic component, you'll need carnivorous plant soil or medium, which I use peat perlite 1:1 ratio. I also use long fiber sphagnum moss and also use water for my propagation. So any kind of water that you would use for watering your carnivorous plants will be acceptable to propagate them as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start with Drosera binata. So get yourself some scissors, or in my case I got some trimmers here, and just very carefully go over, snip off a leaf, take it, got 2 there, not too much of a worry, and I place it in the water. Now these little cups here, you see, you can get on Amazon, at Walmart, basically any kind of grocery store or whatnot. These are the 2 ounce, there are 4 ounce versions available and an 8 ounce, got little lids. I like using these because they provide a sealed environment, so it's like as close to cheap at-home tissue culture as you're probably going to get. Okay, so we take and we cap the binata leaves, and as you can see, it's about halfway full. They're floating on the water, you know, they're not entirely submerged. And then a big thing I like to do, always mark it as you go. Now you're like, oh, how long should that take? Well, here I got some Drosera binata dichotoma. You can see I got some strikes already forming on this little guy here. Let me get the lid off so you can see it better. So those little red bumps on that bottom leaf right there, those are what will form the plantlets. And if I take my camera, my phone off here, binata will take about a month to a month and a half to go from the cut-in leaf there to these little babies right here on that dried shriveled leaf. You can kind of see it. And then from that dried little leaf and those little baby plantlets right there to something about this size within 2 to 3 months. And that's with good feeding, good lighting, etc. So a lot of good assumptions there. I have seen them take 6 months. I've had them, you know, to that size and as low as 2. Okay, so that's binata. Let's move on to Butterworts. Now for Butterworts, I like to use a pipette and put a little bit of peat and perlite in a cup like this. Now, I'm not too anal, but this is a 3 milliliter. I usually get about 6, maybe sometimes 8 mils of water into these, depending. Let me see if I can get it back in focus for you guys. Depending on how deep it is. This one's about, you know, a third. Okay, set that down. So this is a nice Pinguicula pirouette Mexican hybrid. Very easy species to propagate. So I just go ahead, pull off a leaf, preferably from the base, and so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. Just pull up and straight. All right, lay it face up, right on top like that. Take, cap it, and as like I always say, label. Ah! Fell over. I actually have that happen to me a lot. Still not much an issue. Just take, wipe them off. Still looking good. And good to go. So those little guys will take about a month to 2 months, depending on the species. Pirouette's pretty quick. It's usually about 2 weeks. I'll see some little babies starting. Let's see, actually, I think I got some little babies right here. No, they're not really formed too well. So let's come up here. Here's an actual pot of baby pirouettes. These are about a month after they've been pulled, and they're now sitting in the pot Here's ones that were just pulled yesterday. So you can see little baby plantlets form at the base of the leaf and very rapidly will expand out to plants. So that's how to clone a butterwort. Well, I should preface, that's how to clone a Mexican butterwort. The temperate ones can be a little bit trickier, but same principle. Moving on to the Venus flytrap, which a lot of you are probably curious about. Venus flytraps are in the family Droseraceae, so they're incredibly similar to Sundews. So just literally for them, instead of cutting the leaf off, because they do not form from the actual, trap portion as the Sundews do, you have to go and pull straight down. And if you can see here, there's a little bit of white on the very tip of this leaf. Let me get the focused in for you. Now, this white bit is a piece of the rhizome, which is the base part right before the leaves on the Venus flytrap, where you can see like its little babies divide out from. It is very important to get this white part because the trap will only regenerate a new flytrap from that little rhizome, or actually close to the piece of the rhizome. So like even like this little bit of tissue where it's kind of turning whitish will still work. And just like the Sundews, float it, cap it, and then this is a B52 I did a few weeks ago. If we zoom in a little bit and I go grab my forcep, I can kind of point to one. You can kind of see there's some little bumps forming on the very edges where those rhizomes are. And in some cases, little trap tissue, like on the bottom one, already forming. Now, they'll be like that, and I'll put them into some peat under a very humid environment, peat perlite. And within a very short order, you will see those little lumps will actually start differentiating out to traps very quickly. And this is, I think, 2 months now. Same with these guys back here. About 2 months after being pulled and about a month after being planted. So as you can see, Venus flytraps will very rapidly grow. They won't be very sizable, but they'll put off little tiny little mouths very quickly. Okay, moving on to, we'll do the rainbow plant real fast. This is a Byblis filifolia. Now this is a technique that I've recently been working on here and finding out most of the annual Byblis is actually very easy to clone. So I just take my scissors right here. So you got this node right above the node. Okay. And then we take the Byblis and stick it right into some peat perlite, just like that. Not much care at all. Give it room temp, well, basic conditions I would for any of my rainbow plants, and they've been rooting pretty quickly. Now you're like, oh, what happens to the mother plant? Well, the mother plants will actually grow from these secondaries. So your mother plant will usually shoot off 1 or 2 more little secondary stems very quickly that you can clone another one off, or just let them get even bushier. And you can get pretty ridiculous with it, to where you can get little secondaries popping off of the secondaries. And then in the cases of like my bush here, you can get secondaries popping off the secondaries as secondary. So it definitely becomes very interesting over time. And as you can see, Byblis filifolia is very quick and prolific in its cloning. I would say it takes about 2 weeks to get rooted, and then you'll see them just literally take off. Like this is 3-week-old cutting, and I already just took another cutting off of it. So they propagate insanely quick. All right, now moving on to Bladderworts. This one's gonna be really easy. Okay, we take and we just yank this up. As you can see, it's pretty much like a solid mat. Okay, Bladderworts, we do plugs. Pull off a hunk, just like that. Find your other soil that you're going to be putting it in. Slap that baby into it. And I generally don't care too much about Sandersoni because it's just so prolific for me. And it literally just, it performs so well. So I have no issues with it. But generally speaking, you just like every one of these other clones and stuff like that, Give it a little bit more humidity, a little less light maybe, and it should bounce back very quickly. I usually find that bladderworts, whenever you do the plugs of them, they will stop flowering until they fill out their pot again. So they like to be this very dense network first, and like I guess it's like they want to really be getting as much nutrition as possible out of their environment before they want to flower. So makes a lot of sense. Now, last but not least, here is a Nepenthes ventrata, which, to be fair, I would not normally be cloning this specimen, okay, because of its size. I'm only doing this for the purpose of this video. Usually I like the stems to be much taller, and I generally only clone them down to their base. Like this one's already cloned to its base, because they're usually getting too tall for my lates. So this guy got over, about 1.5 feet tall, and then I just chopped him up, made all kinds of little cuttings. You'll see those in a minute. So to do Nepenthes, this is kind of a sad process, okay? Depending on how much space you have, depends on how much of the leaf you can keep. And I know that's kind of concerning. So let's just jump into it. I usually go about 3 leaves down from the top. So technically I think they're phyllodes is their technical term, because the leaf is the pitcher. As you can see, 1, 2, 3. And then the meristem at top, that's unfurling. And you're like, oh man. So as you can see, if I put it in there, I could get a plastic bag or whatever over top of it, and it will grow, okay? But for my setup, I don't have that space. So like if you do have a plastic bag, like a Ziploc bag, go ahead, put it over top of this, give it a nice humid environment. Make sure you're watering it daily, let the water drain through, make sure it's very humid, and if you see mold or anything start growing, try to walk back the humidity. Nepenthes will root and start developing within a month. Particularly like even these hybrids like this. The other ones, like the pure species, tend not to. Now for my setup, because I don't have a lot of space, I got to trim it down. Never trim the active growth point. That's bad. Puts a lot of stress on the plant. But trimming back the phyllodes to where you can actually get it to where it's sitting, I got to trim that one back a little bit further because it's still put too much leverage against the pot. There we go. Now you can see it's actually really firmly in there. Now, let's get this guy over in with the other Nepenthes. So, for Nepenthes cuttings, they tend to root pretty quickly. I give them a nice humid environment, and like you can see, this guy is already going. This one has, a little stem starting to shoot out the side. That one's going good. That one's starting to take. But as you can see, yeah, the Nepenthes clones, particularly like even Ventrata here, will clone incredibly quickly. So there you have it. That's how I do my Nepenthes. And then I find that they'll usually be a size to where I can put it next to my mom's and stuff like that within about a month or 2 after I take the cutting. And I like to walk back the humidity real slowly. So like in a case like this, I'd probably put it over in this next door neighbor tray because it's got a lot more space for air to get in there. Kind of walk down the humidity a bit, and then finally put it out over there. If you go too quickly, you will notice that they will shrivel up, and that's very bad. Desiccation is just very stressful for plants in general. All right, so that's how I propagate 6 different genera of carnivorous plants, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like, subscribe, go back, jump through, and share the information as you need to with your friends on how to do this stuff. The concepts that you saw here all generally apply to every other member of their respective genera. I do have to say, for Sundews, when it comes to the Pediolaria Sundews, you have to do leaf pullings like you do with the Venus flytrap, which right here you can see a Ordinensis and a Lanata pooling that have both struck right there, respectively left to right. And there's the mother plants. So, yeah, generally speaking, with like Bladderworts stuff, all of them divide out the same. Sundews, you can do the leaf cuttings all the same. The timetable will vary from genera to genera, well, species to species, excuse me. But it all it all pretty much transfers over. Expect in the future, whenever I get to division, especially with my Helianthera or Sarracenia or my Cobra Lilies, I'll definitely go over that. In the near future, I'm going to go over what to do with Sundew seeds, because as you can see, I got quite a few all over the place. And that's going to be a very fun thing. Oh, wow, I even got a Pinata flower right there. So cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any suggestions or any questions about plants, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to help you out and help you get to this point here where you have all kinds of beautiful plants growing for you. Definitely try to propagate all of these plants out, and if you need any help or you need any advice, any words of encouragement, go ahead and comment. I'll try my best to walk you through this. Just give me some time to respond, and we'll all get through it together, and we'll get you a bunch of plants. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.